Batman decided to take a bribe being offered by the Black Mask. I know I've been making a lot of Batman content lately, but the 5th issue of Absolute Batman has finally arrived, and in my opinion it's the best issue yet since the 1st and 2nd issues, so I can't not cover it, you know? So with that being said, we start off during a flashback in the hospital with Bruce being given some shots after being scraped up and bitten by a bunch of bats. And after giving him his last injection, Dr. Tompkins jokingly says, "If you start growing fangs or pointy ears, you call me right away. Otherwise, this should be the end of you and bats." After that, we get a quick little glimpse of Bruce, Martha, Gordon, and Bruce's friends standing in the rain above Thomas's casket during his funeral service, only to be guided back over to present day, where Alfred and various members of the party animals were keeping tabs on Bruce as he sped through the city streets of Gotham to meet with the Black Mask. And what's crazy is that despite literally having a $140,000 bounty on his head, none of the party animals decided to take any shots at him. Because if you don't recall, this little deal they have going on consisted of them leaving each other alone for a while. If Batman agreed to step down and temporarily let the party animals run rampant, they'd leave him alone, eventually leave Gotham altogether, and also give him millions upon millions of dollars. Anyways, after that, the story jumps over to Martha and Mayor Gordon, realizing that Harvey Bullock was no longer on their side anymore in the upcoming election. Instead of endorsing Jim, he decided to endorse Mayor Hill, which caught Jim completely by surprise and kinda hurt his feelings because him and Bullock were close friends. But wanting to switch the topic from himself, Jim would then apologize to Martha for the memorial of Thomas's death because due to the party animals' chaos this year, Gotham decided that they weren't gonna turn the memorial lights on that honored Thomas's bravery that day out of fear that the party animals were gonna go there and cause a bunch of havoc. The story then takes us back into the past again at Thomas's funeral. While standing there in the rain, Jim couldn't help but feel obligated to bring Bruce some comfort, expressing that his father was a very brave man and that because of the incident they were gonna tear the Gotham Zoo down so he'd never have to look at it again. After that, we see current day Bruce sitting on top of a helipad being monitored by Alfred and the party animals yet again as he awaited the Black Mask. Upon his arrival, he assured Bruce that the money was already his, stressing that the code to the account was sent earlier that morning. But apparently Bruce knew that beforehand, saying that he already spent it on something. So Black Mask asked how much of it he spent, and Bruce claimed that he literally spent every single penny. And obviously $200 million is an insane amount of money to spend in the span of just a few hours, so out of curiosity, Black Mask asked him what he spent it on. But before we get an answer, the story goes back into the past again as everyone began leaving Thomas's funeral. However, before they officially departed, Bruce had one last thing to say to Jim Gordon, expressing that he didn't want them to tear the Gotham Zoo down. Instead, he wanted it to be something that shined and made everyone look so they didn't forget about his father. So that's why they decided to put up a memorial light for him, and also why the Gotham Zoo still stood in present day. But like I said earlier, this year they decided that they weren't turning it on thanks to the acts of the party animals. But as we go back to present day, we realize that Bruce wasn't gonna let that happen, putting all the money he was given by Black Mask on top of it to create his chest symbol, which upon turning it on created a giant bat signal to signify that he wasn't gonna play by Black Mask's rules and allow Gotham to suffer. So in a moment of anger and frustration, Black Mask called his men to his side, indicating that the deal was off and commanding them to swarm Bruce with everything they had. But to their misfortune, Bruce would go on to make a complete and utter mockery of them, using his bat tendrils to slash their faces and stab them in different parts of their bodies, breaking one of their legs by caving their kneecap in, and when one of them tried jumping on his back with a butcher knife, he extended the freaking spikes on his back into the dude's arms and proceeded to continue fighting with him stuck on his back until using his bat tendrils once again to slam him onto the ground. But while on the verge of defeat, Black Mask eventually ordered his men who were standing by on nearby buildings to use their net guns to trap Bruce inside, allowing him to grab Bruce's arm, bend it at the elbow with an unrelenting amount of pressure, which eventually caused it to snap when it was all said and done. However, despite such a devastating injury, Bruce was still smiling, indicating that Black Mask had already lost because he was broadcasting everything he confessed onto every single news station in Gotham. But as the bat symbol in the sky faded away due to the money setting aflame, Black Mask expressed that he didn't care and that Bruce achieved nothing with this little stunt. And to add even more insult to injury, this little pink family he was with, we don't really know who they are at this point or how they became affiliated with Black Mask, but they started tearing into Bruce Bruce as well, pulling out a blade from his ears, stabbing him with it over and over again, and then eventually lighting him on fire with a flamethrower until using his own bat axe to send him flying off of the building. However, that's when we realize that Bruce's tendrils are capable of turning into a parachute, and despite being filled with holes and super damaged, they were able to lessen the impact of his fall just enough so that when he crashed onto a car on top of this random parking garage, he was able to survive. But it soon becomes very clear that this version of Batman has some absolutely terrible luck, because almost immediately upon impact, Harvey Bullock and the GCPD began spraying him down with a minigun, causing the car he fell onto to send him flying with a massive explosion. But refusing to be taken into custody, he navigated to the lower levels of the garage where, again, he sort of just proves having terrible luck because Barbara Gordon, Jim Gordon's daughter, smashes into him with her squad car. For some reason though, instead of bringing him in, she kind of just started feeling bad for him. It could have been because his cow fell off and she realized he was just a kid, or even just seeing how badly beaten he was. We don't really know, but ultimately she decided letting him escape through the sewers instead of bringing him in. After that, the story jumps over to Mayor Gordon and Martha in Gordon's office when suddenly Black Mask came upon the news to give a message to the people of Gotham. And in this message, he expressed that all the big guys on top with money were reaping the benefits of the average person in Gotham's hard work. Their money only continued to make them more money, while everyone else was slaving away struggling to stay alive. And because Batman turned down his opportunity to have a bunch of money, he was extending the offer to anybody and everybody who wanted to join his side. Hundreds of millions of dollars would be up for grabs, and the only thing they needed to do to get their piece of the pie was go to these little gear stashes and start taking people out who had bounties on their heads. And as you can see here, some of Gotham's people quickly decided to join him, who immediately had their eyes on Martha and Jim Gordon. We then see Bruce trying to patch himself up at one of his many secret hideouts, and in the midst of doing so, he was visited by none other than Alfred Pennyworth, expressing that he was such a fool for the little stunt he pulled earlier. According to Bruce though, he did the right thing, indicating that he slipped a tracker onto Black Mask without him noticing, so all he needed was for Alfred to help patch him up and he could continue with his mission. But despite claiming to know 100 different ways to patch Bruce up since he was a field medic before, Alfred stated that he was never going to help him again. But sadly, that's when this issue comes to an end. But if you want to see what happens next, let me know in the comments down below.